Good evening, everyone. Is this on?
Sorry, we're just about to start. There we go. Sorry.
Thanks, Ben. Good evening, everyone. My name is Councillor Debbie Arnott and I'm the Mayor at Warrnambool City Council and I will be chairing tonight's meeting. I would like to formally welcome everyone watching this council meeting. This council meeting will be live streamed to allow for public viewing and transparency, and if any technical problems interrupt the live stream during this meeting, the meeting will be adjourned until the issues are rectified. This scheduled council meeting will be conducted in accordance with council's governance rules, and any interruptions to the meeting or actions not in line with behaviour expectations will be dealt with in accordance with these rules. I'll ask the councillors to stand for the opening prayer, please. We will now proceed to the items of the agenda, commencing with the opening prayer and an acknowledgement of the traditional owners. Almighty God, grant to this council wisdom, understanding and sincerity of purpose for the good governance of this city. Amen. I wish to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we stand and pay my respects to their elders, past and present. Thank you. Are there any apologies for this meeting? No, thank you. The confirmation of minutes. Councillors, at item 3 on the agenda, we have a recommendation before us to confirm the minutes of the scheduled meeting of council held on 3rd of October 22 and minutes of annual meeting of council held on October 24th, 2022. Councillors, are there any questions on this item before I seek a motion? No, thank you. Do I have a mover? Councillor Jelly. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Akoish. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 4, conflicts of interest. If a councillor has a conflict of interest, they must declare it now and do so again just prior to the item being discussed. A councillor who has declared a conflict of interest must leave the meeting and remain outside the room while the matter is being considered or any vote is taken. Once the matter is resolved, the councillor will return to the meeting. Are there any any declarations of conflicts of interest? No, thank you. A request has been received from Fitz Media to record and film tonight's council meeting. In accordance with clause 82.5 of the governance rules, media representatives require the consent of council to record any part of the council meeting. Councillors, I will require a motion regarding this request. The motion is that council provide consent for Fitz Media to record and film tonight's council meeting. Do I have a mover? Councillor Taylor. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Paspaliaris. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 6, petitions and joint letters. Item 6.1, petitions to keep and upgrade the Warrnambool Sale Yards, Southwest Victorian Livestock Exchange, at its current location in Warrnambool. Written and electronic petitions have been received with 1,500 combined signatures lodged by the Warrnambool Stock Agents Inc. to keep and upgrade the Warrnambool Sale Yards at its current location in Warrnambool. Chief Executive Officer Mr Snyder, per section 25.6 of the Governance Rule, can you please read out the petition?
Thank you, Mayor. The petition is to keep and upgrade the Warrnambool Sale Yards at its current location in Warrnambool and it notes that the sale yards have been a strong economic boost and social benefit to Warrnambool and surrounding districts for over 120 years. The city continues to be heavily reliant on the strength of the surrounding farming communities. The sale yards are essential for that strength.
Thank you, Mr Snyder. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Blaine, what is your motion?
That in accordance with the government's rules, the petition lodged to keep and upgrade the Warrnambool Sale Yards, the South West Victorian Livestock Exchange, at its current location in Warrnambool be considered in conjunction with item 8.1 at the scheduled council meeting for Monday, the 7th of November 2022, which is today.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for this motion? Councillor Ziegler, thank you. I will now put the motion to vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Public question time. CEO, are there any public questions tonight?
Madam Mayor, we have 3 questions. The first one we have is from Tammy Good of Warrnambool, and I'm not sure if Tammy's here this evening.
Is Tammy here? No.
In Tammy's absence, I'll read out the question and the response. Regarding the proposed basketball court as part of the Small Infrastructure Fund, item 8.9, 8.8, my question is, why can't a court be constructed adjacent to the hole in one area to the south side? That area isn't low-lying, so drainage shouldn't be an issue. Opportunity to develop recreation south of Patobe Road in PRZ. The response is the area chosen for the initial construction of a basketball court was based on its inclusion in the Lake Patobe Master Plan and is aligned with the original council intention to have a basketball court constructed in Lake Patobe. It is also in a recreational sector of Lake Patobe. The area adjacent to the hole-in-one and skate park will be subject to a strategic planning exercise that may well propose that the location is suitable for a similar facility that can then be provided to complement the other recreational facilities in the area. The second and third questions we have, Madam Mayor, are both from Sharon Elmack of Minimite. I'm not too sure if Sharon is in the...
Is Sharon in the room? Sharon, would you like to read your questions, or would you would like to? The podium is just there, thank you.
Can I read the bit that goes before the actual question itself?
You will need to speak into the microphone, please.
Do I read the... Hello? Testing.
Question.
Hello? 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 Nope. You've got it now? Hello?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Sharon. You just read the questions, please.
So I can't read what goes before
Just the
it.
questions, please.
Okay. Question. Why are you willing to put the livestock through extra stress and strain by having these animals travel further?
Mr. CEO.
Madam Mayor, the response to that is, in considering the future of the South West Victoria Livestock Exchange, Council has commissioned a number of different reports and been presented a great variety of information. Throughout this process, the welfare of livestock has been raised several times. Council acknowledges that some transport distances may extend for some livestock, and owners and transporters will need to take this into consideration at the time of transport, as they always would. Council is aware that the reports commissioned note that with the increase in alternate methods of selling, for example, direct from farm or online, the need to travel to a sale yard is reduced. Council also notes that in the examples provided, locations such as Macarthur, Garvock, Nullawarre, Bessie Bell, Hawkesdale, Petersburg and Woolsthorpe would have an increased transport time of 15 minutes or less, and some of them are actually closer to Mortlake. All example locations provided will still maintain a transport time of 70 minutes or less if they chose to travel to Mortlake or Camperdown instead of Warrnambool.
Thank you. Your second question, please, Sharon.
Can I make a response to
No, you cannot. Your second question, please. Your second question, please,
Democracy.
Sharon.
Clarification, please, because as far as I know, any cattle going from Port Fairy to Warrnambool is 26 kilometres, whereas it's 71 kilometres to Mortlake. So that's 142 kilometres round trip. Now,
Sharon, can I have your second question, please? We are not here to debate tonight, and
it's clarification. Can you clarify your figures?
Mayor, there's no further clarification. The response is as read.
thank you. Your second question, please, Sharon. Excuse me. Your second question, please, Sharon.
Okay. Contamination. The second question is about contamination of the Warrnambool sale yards for when if you decide to pull it down. Why have we not been told the total cost to bring the site back to a safe, sellable and usable plot of land?
Mayor, the response to the question is that item 8.1 in tonight's agenda includes a report to consider the future of the operations of the South West Victorian Livestock Exchange. A recommendation within this report is that Council commissions a future strategic land use plan for the site and adjacent buffer zone land holdings. If this recommendation is supported, the strategic land use plan will determine the extent, if any, of existing site contamination and consider any site rehabilitation and associated costs.
So you haven't done a contaminate, how much it's going to cost to clean
The
up?
question has been answered. Thank you. Can you take your...
No. No.
I'll
The
remind
question has not
everyone
been
in the
answered.
gallery, excuse me, I'll remind everyone
excused.
in the gallery that this is in a very emotional and trying time, but you must allow council to perform their duties. Thank you. Excuse me.
You're excused, but
Right,
why
please
will you
sit
answer
down,
the
please,
question?
Sharon. Please sit down.
I will sit down, but you need to know that you need to do what's
Sharon.
right by Warrnambool ratepayers.
Sharon, please take your seat. I will remind the gallery that we must have quiet. Now, thank you. Allow us to proceed with the meeting. Thank you. Excuse me, allow us to continue with the meeting. We will move on to the agenda now. Councillors, we are now moving to the Officers' Report section of the agenda. I would like to remind you of the speaking times allocated for each item during the meeting, as outlined in our governance rules. The mover of a motion may speak for a maximum of 5 minutes to open the debate, and then a further 2 minutes later on to exercise their right of reply and to close the debate. Any other councillor, including the seconder, may speak for or against a motion for no more than 3 minutes. To assist councillors with time limits, you will hear a signal when you have reached the maximum time allowed. I would ask you to respect the time limits, please. Item 8.1. Item 8.1, South West Victorian Livestock Exchange Future Operations Consideration. Agenda page 9.6. The purpose of this report is to consider the future of operations at the South West Victorian Livestock Exchange. Councillors, are there any questions on this item before I seek a motion? Thank you. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Blaine. What is your motion? Sorry.
I move that 1, Council cease to operate the South West Victorian Livestock Exchange as a selling yards by the 30th of June 2023. 2, that Council acknowledges the employees engaged and involved at the South West Victorian Livestock Exchange, thanks them for their continuing work and commitment to the provision of the service. 3, that council acknowledge the dedicated support from the agents associated with the yards and the loyal producers over the years of operations. 4, that council continue to engage with employees working at the South West Victorian Livestock Exchange to ensure council can minimise the impact, previous uncertainty and ultimate outcome of this decision on those employees. 5, council authorises the CEO to proceed with the required perimeter fencing and associated works required in response to the WorkSafe Improvement Notice that was issued in March 2022. 6, the council commissions a future strategic land use plan for the site and adjacent buffer zone land holdings. And 7, council authorises the CEO to utilise the CEO delegations to reallocate budgeted funds from the refurbishment of the sale yards to fund the future strategic land use plan, including associated community consultation for the site. This reallocation and strategic plan should also include consideration for the truck wash service and effluent dump and site rehabilitation and associated costs. Further, any unallocated funds from the refurbishment will be returned to council's unallocated reserves for future budget considerations as part of the annual budgeting process. Thank you.
Is there a seconder for this motion? Councillor Jelly. Thank you. Councillor Blaine, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Arnott. This has been quite a long and drawn-out saga. It's invoked a lot of emotion over the last 2 years, and I'm sorry it's taken so long to get the required information in order for me to form a view on the sale yards. Looking back at the sale yards, they have a long history in Warrnambool. When they were first built in 1904, and then they were opposite KFC, when they were opposite KFC, and now where they've moved to their current site in Karamat Road in 1970. The sale yard site's always been a point of community interest. From the original protests about the site being too small in 1904 to then moving to Swan Reserve in town to Karamat Road, which created backlash moving them from town. Even back in 2014, when the decision was held here in the Lighthouse Theatre, that drew a lot of community interest. But time has moved on from these discussions. Nearly a decade ago, the market's changed significantly, not just through other yards, but selling options, cattle numbers, farm sizes, and most importantly, the condition of our asset, the sale yards itself, has changed. Successive councils, administrations have previously underinvested in the facility. Previous council have said they supported the yards by putting a roof on the holding pens. This wasn't supporting the work that was needed for the facility to make it state of the art. This was a patch up. And I can't change the decisions of the past or the underinvestment in the facility through the decisions of others. I can only look at the issues we have at hand now. I do believe the opportunity to build a state-of-the-art facility has now passed. Warrnambool could have been the sole regional selling centre, but instead, through underinvestment and poor planning, a hole was created in the market, which has now been filled by private enterprise. I believe the role of local government through rates and revenue and grants is to offer services and opportunities to their communities that aren't provided through commercial and not-for-profit organisations. The Pool, Flagstaff Hill, Library, Pound, Lighthouse Theatre and Art Gallery are examples of facilities and services that would not be available to Warrnambool if it wasn't for council. These opportunities and services are what residents pay rates for. Without local government, these services would not be available in our city or the southwest region in some cases. There are two main commercial enterprises council is involved in. That's the caravan parks and the sale yards. The need for these operations is to create revenue through commercial activity to ease the burden on ratepayers. According to council's finances in the AEC economic study, revenue versus expenditure, this includes the capital, over the last 5 years, the sale yards have run at an average loss of $46,200 a year over the past 5 years. The facility is adding to the burden of Warrnambool's ratepayers, and according to the modelling, this will continue to grow. Numbers going through the yards have shown a consistent trend of decline over the last 2 decades, declining around 50% between 1995 and 2012, then another 50% between 2012 and 2021. So effectively, the facility is servicing 25% of the stock from its peak in 1995. The market is speaking loud and clear through utilisation, throughput equals a substantial decrease in revenue. Costs will continue to rise, especially in the current environment of high inflation. And without more throughput, the gap between revenue and expense will continue to widen. I've seen a clear decrease in stock numbers for the financial year. Last year, 62,000 cattle. And if this trend of decline continues this year, based on the first quarter of 2022-2023, it looks like we'll only have 40 to 50,000 cattle, a 20% decrease just on last year. And getting those numbers back, I believe, will be challenging. I see a major risk to ratepayers and council in being able to ensure that even these numbers continue to come to the yards. The share of cattle supplied by the agents is very concentrated on one agent. One agent provides 2/3 of the cattle to the market, while the other three only make up 1/3. So of the animals sold through the yards, one's supplying around 40,000 and the other three are only selling about 20. I understand most of the agents have signed a commitment to the Warrnambool yards, but as council, we have no control whether these businesses would continue to remain at Warrnambool for the next 20 years or not. The major risk is by losing one of the agents, 2/3 of the sale yards business could be lost overnight. With a tied facility, what will be the next move? The loss of any selling agent would increase the subsidy needed by ratepayers of Warrnambool substantially. Business is business, but risking public funds on another business is not something that I'm comfortable with. To help inform our decision, council did commission an independent report to examine the matter. Neil Castle's independent report makes it very clear from a financial sense. The financial analysis indicates that council could not undertake the investment in the new capital works of between 4,487,000 or 5,667,000 and maintenance capital over 20 years of 4,040,000 or 3,880,000 is required in the 8 years. I believe council needs to understand, based on the analysis run by Neil, the commitment to capital expenditure of the yards will result in not just that loss, but a loss of $12 million of ratepayers' money. Effectively spending $8 million results in an extra $20 million in cost to ratepayers. This is a $20 million commitment with no possible ability, as far as the modelling shown, for the asset to actually repay and support the ratepayers of Warrnambool, as it's intended to do. And the report, Neil makes it very clear. Council may ultimately decide to undertake the new and maintenance capital works. However, the decision to do so should not be done on the basis that it makes sense financially. Purely on a financial basis for council, I believe the decision is clear. Neil's report does mention it doesn't include potential grants to fund capital works, but I find this won't actually address the issue of a 50-year-old asset that is the sale yards. But I don't see the grants actually addressing the yards. It will only be another patch-up job. The design is dated. It doesn't have in mind for separation of livestock and people to reduce risk to visitors and buyers at the yards. Currently, the foundations of the yards are in concrete. The only way I can see we can truly have a soft floor is by pulling up the concrete and these foundations, which will lead to a complete rebuild of the yards. I can't see how a substantial grant from the government with council funding on top will achieve the animal welfare, health, safety and yards amenity issues that are expected in a modern facility. The last commercial facility built in the region around 2017-18 at a cost of $17 million, I'd estimate a smaller version of a state-of-the-art facility like this would be around $25 to $30 million. As outlined in the 2008 AEC report, the biggest impact to Warrnambool yards would be another set of yards opening within an hour of Warrnambool. This has happened. At the time, I believe they were talking about the Cudgee proposal, but it didn't happen, but Mortlake did. And we're effectively having the same effect Cudgee would have had on the Warrnambool Selling Centre. The major users of the South West Victorian Livestock Exchange facility have stated, unless you're going to invest properly and give us a state-of-the-art facility, you're wasting your time and money. I don't think we can invest because with the current infrastructure, we can't offer a state-of-the-art facility. The time for the rebuild was back in 2012, 2014, when Warrnambool was the sole provider to the region. Look at how the market's reacted to having two facilities. Warrnambool's losing numbers and now two entities are competing for a market share near each other. A new modern facility has happened because the need was there in the market. And look, it's a shame it wasn't Warrnambool. But that was a missed opportunity by previous councils and their administrations, and I can't undo that now. The gap in the market has been filled, and is being supported in the region. From the consultation and the focus groups, I listened to some of the major major users describing the state of the facility as unsafe and have pointed out that some of their staff have only ever worked in Warrnambool and they believe their staff have never worked in a truly safe facility. We have now seen the walkway collapse, cattle escaping, issues around the...
Quiet, please. You will be quiet, please. Allow Councillor Blaine to continue. Quiet, please. Quiet, please.
Around loading ramp safety, Council have received improvement notices from WorkSafe and now a prosecution case from WorkSafe that could cost Council and ratepayers over $1 million if we're convicted. When is it time to accept that the facility is failing and enough is enough? I think it's now. The proposed investment, according to the tender, was effectively a roof, buyers and auctioneers' walkways, and making the loading races compliant. Nothing was being invested in the yards themselves or improving the safety at the yards. It was mainly to address the amenity of the yards and playing catch-up to create a patch in order to try and meet modern facility standards. I don't want to see anyone putting themselves at risk in a dangerous environment. I'm concerned that this is how the yards are viewed by its users, and I don't want to wait for the next incident before another decision is forced to be made about this facility. I believe ratepayers' funds will be needed to continue the patches on the facility, also putting Council at risk with future works and prosecution notices. And most concerning to me, allowing individuals into unsafe situations. Safety is number one in my book, and I agree with the users. This facility doesn't offer that in its current state. I believe there will be an economic impact to Warrnambool and some businesses will feel it more than others. But I do believe all the spend that comes to Warrnambool won't be lost by the closure of the yards. On the jobs lost, there will be some lost, especially in relation to the operation of the yards. But looking at the agents in Warrnambool, everyone either sells in another selling centre or is making plans. But looking at the agents, they all sell in another selling centre or are making plans to sell in another selling centre. The actions of the agents speak to the uncertainty of the yards. Also, the moves from the agents could be driven by market forces or client need, but whatever the reason, I think it's a fair indication the facility is not meeting the needs of the agents or their clients, and this has necessitated their move away from Warrnambool. The sale yards had a reprieve in 2014 when Council voted to continue the operation, but I see many users have already started moving their business to address the future and succession of the yards. There will still be clients to be serviced by the agents, and there will still be avenues to sell. And the young agents will still have work available to them in agriculture in this region. Many agents have their head offices based in different towns to where they sell. So the agents will still have work, it'll just be in a different place. From a producer and buyer's perspective, there's a range of issues that were raised. Animal welfare, I believe, is and should be number one in these discussions. The concrete flooring is an issue. This deters buyers, with some stating they won't even buy from Warrnambool due to lameness in the animals. This has a detrimental effect for sellers and processors, with the potential poorer product coming from the yards potentially affecting producers' returns. I believe it is in every producer's interest to present their animals the best they can to ensure the best possible returns. Producers work hard for what they produce and deserve the best in return for their efforts, and the right selling conditions can aid that with a more relaxed animal and more buyers. Calf markets, they are a challenge, mainly because the animal's a couple of days old, being taken off their mother, put them in a trailer or truck, taking them to market.
Quiet, please. You will be quiet and allow Councillor Blaine to continue. Quiet, please. Will the gallery be quiet, please? Allow Councillor Blaine to continue. Excuse me, if you can't be quiet, you will be asked to remove yourself from the meeting. Now, please be quiet. Please be quiet. Please be quiet. Please. No, you can't. You will be quiet and take your seat, please. When you be quiet, we will continue. Now, please be quiet. Councillor Blaine.
Having them sitting for the day while they are sold and loaded again to be taken to where they're going, I don't see this as the best outcome for stock, and it's reflected in the broader market. Camperdown and other centres have closed their calf yards, and I believe it's a better, more humane selling straight from the farm. Agents can still facilitate these deals with young stock being transported from their farm to their destination without the yards in the middle. There's less stress on the animal, a better product, and the calves coming from farms and through the agents to the producers or hobby farmers, they will still have access to calves for their business. Freight's been another issue that's been raised through the consultation.
Councillor Blaine, can I just interrupt for a minute? You need to ask for an extension.
Sorry, can I please have an extension?
Could you please be quiet and allow the meeting to continue?
Can I please have an extension, Mayor Arnott?
You can, thank you.
Freight has been another issue raised through the consultation. I think we forget the distance between the two closest centres, Warrnambool and Mortlake, is about 51.8 kilometres, or about 40 minutes. I believe getting stock on and off the truck is the most dangerous time with the most stress on the animals. It's not a big distance in time going from one facility to the other, in my view, which may differ to some others. Livestock, in most instances, will travel further after the sale to get to processors than any freight to the yards. Even with less sale yards, there'll still be livestock and transport, and a destination may change, but the livestock will still need to be transported and that will continue to happen. On the yards and fees, every sale yard in the country competes with every other yard to attract cattle to be sold through their facility. I can't see a major increase in fees for the region being a good scenario for any yards competing in the southwest or across Victoria. It's in the interest of all operators to remain competitive in the market when it comes to user fees. Otherwise, the open market will abandon sale yard operators who price themselves out of the market to other selling methods in other yards. I'm confident reasonable fees will be dealt with, though through the open market, producers understand if they're being taken for a ride and will send a message loud and clear with their feet. We are seeing that now with the decline in throughput through Warrnambool. Economically, there will be some loss to the Warrnambool economy, but producers stop coming and business leaves Warrnambool, I'm not so sure. Warrnambool's a major service centre in the southwest with the region. Many services still need to be accessed through Warrnambool. I find it interesting when listening to the impact of the business, the Warrnambool yards have experienced a significant downturn over the last 5 years in numbers. And
Excuse me, Councillor Blaine, just 30 more seconds, thank you. And you will be quiet, please.
But we haven't seen the mass exodus or move from businesses to follow the usage patterns of the yards. The current yards are going through a period of decreased usage, and I haven't heard of the detrimental effect that's having currently, only if they are to close. I understand humans are habitual beings and no one likes change, but there are other options for all producers in the region. As NEAR report states, by investing, we're giving up the windfall from the losses that will be incurred from the operations of the yards. I can't accept that. We will miss this opportunity.
Thank you, Councillor Blaine. We'll just need to leave it there, I think. Thank you. Please be quiet. Councillor Jelly, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. As a councillor group, we have been left with one of the most difficult decisions to make probably in our entire term, and one of the most significant decisions made by any council for many years. 10 years ago, Warrnambool City Council made a huge mistake by not addressing the issues with the sale yards. They then had an opportunity to resite in new yards, but did not take that option. I imagine we would not be sitting here tonight if they had done so. The Warrnambool sale yards were literally discarded and allowed to deteriorate. Hence, the opportunity was recognised by a private entity who constructed a state-of-the-art facility 50 kilometres from Warrnambool. A couple of months ago, the tender for the roof over part of the sale yards was voted down by the majority of councillors. There was recent conjecture raised in the community in regards to the financial viability of the sale of the yards. Council felt it was important to ensure an updated commercial analysis was completed, as was done in 2010, when the sale yard's future was then being considered. We needed new data and facts that were current. A lot has changed in 12 years, and it was inappropriate to be quoting old information. That was then, and this is now. Our councillors chose to get an external independent opinion on the presentation of the figures as a full commercial entity to present all views of the business. This expert information was released in the public domain last week, along with the review of the economic impact of the sale yards, social value of the business, community consultation results, and land use options to ensure that all information could be considered from all aspects of the selling centre's operations. I personally have considered all aspects of this information, not just one or two, but all. And I hope that all councillors here this evening have considered all aspects. This is a very emotive issue, but it is our role to have kept an open mind. Yes, I have concerns with many of these aspects. I would like to acknowledge the Warrnambool City Council Livestock Exchange staff who have had to weather through these past months, and I know it's been difficult for them. The social impact of the yards is important, and if the yards do close, I do have some further thoughts on how some of these issues could be managed in a transition. Animal welfare is an important issue. Are the Warrnambool sale yards fit for purpose in accordance with appropriate animal welfare and animal behavioural conditions? The ongoing costs in keeping up with this will escalate in the coming years. The environmental impact is of grave concern, and this will be a huge financial and environmental issue as years go by. Keeping to standards of the Environmental Protection Authority will no doubt be more difficult to maintain. The proposal for a roof of 5.6 plus million will not make this facility a state-of-the-art facility. It would be a patch-up job, a band-aid. In the expert new information we have received from Newcastle's alerts the projected cattle throughputs will be impossible to achieve to be a fully commercial facility, when this year the projected throughput could be as low as 40,000 cattle. Where will these cattle come from? The very clear message from the financial analysis and modelling is that financially an upgrade of the Warrnambool sale yards is not viable, as does the officer's recommendation advises to cease operation this facility by the 30th of June 2023. As councillors, we need to make a responsible financial decision for the ratepayers of this city. We cannot leave a significant financial burden for generations to come. In years gone by, we have had large entities like Nestle's Fonterra cease to operate, the Woolen Mill, Fletcher Jones, all iconic businesses closed their doors, and there would have been similar uproar and disagreement, but the city has clearly survived those closures, and other things beneficial to community have evolved, and our economy has flourished. Our role as councillors to make decisions in the best interest of the municipality has been taken extremely seriously, and I hope that we have individually considered each piece of information, conversation, presentation, deputation and report to ensure that we are undertaking our role as councillor in the best of our ability. In that respect, it has not been an easy process. Considering all aspects of this decision has been challenging, to put it mildly. This process has only been made more difficult by rumours and misinformation circulating in the community.
Quiet, please. You will be quiet.
About supposed conflicts of interest, the validity and intention of council processes and information, and straight-out threats made has shown a downside of the Warrnambool community that I am disappointed exists.
Quiet, please. Please be quiet.
This has impacted not only me personally, and through no fault of their own, has impacted my own family and others involved in this process, with these untruths having the potential to lay waste to their integrity, and I can only assume have been started without any thought or consideration as to how damaging this may be to those innocent bystanders who are devoid of any connection in this decision. Despite this, I've stayed true to my role as a councillor and not let this impact or influence my vote. No matter how hard it's gotten, I hope this is true of my fellow councillors making this decision tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Jolly. Would you please take your seat? Thank you. Excuse me, I will have quiet or you will be asked to remove yourself from the meeting. I will ask you to be removed from the meeting if you do not be quiet. Allow the council to do their job. Thank you. Is there any other councillor that wishes to speak? Councillor Ziegler.
Yes, this decision is one of the most fraught that this council has had to make. But we've been forced to this point because we've had to assume responsibility of decisions taken by previous councils. That previous councils have not invested in the sale yards with monies received over the years remains a puzzle to me and suggests a pathway that in my estimation should never have been taken. For whatever reason, the sale yards have been neglected, and I've come to a point after all my deliberations and discussions with people on all sides that we have an obligation to make that good and to make amends. The lead up to this motion has been complicated by innuendo and blame. Such conditions occur when people have uncertainty. They fill the vacuum, they seek reasons, however fanciful. They do this because they're passionate about the subject and they're afraid of the outcomes which are imposed upon them by a council. They're here, you're here in worried numbers because you are passionate. Our decision is not about Mortlake or Colac or Mount Gambier. It's about Warrnambool Livestock Exchange. I admit that I've struggled to understand all the financial discussion and auditors' arguments at a detailed level. I'm led to believe that the financial future in pure unadulterated accountant's language is not good. But the Warrnambool Sale Yards is much more than a financial entity, and my background is one which is trained to consider a holistic human view. I've heard much said about what it may mean to our local economy. If we vote to close the yards, and I believe that only if it's gone will we find out what happens to our economy. I don't think I have enough information about that effect of a closure to support the motion. I've only heard of limited ways in which we could raise the funds to roof it and refurbish the yards. I don't think we've made enough effort to exhaust the options for such fundraising. It's a critical part of a way of life for many people from all over this region, and I'm not prepared to destroy that without trying harder to look at ways of keeping it. It's a social construct as much as it is a market for so many farmers. And no, it's far too flippant to tell them to go to a men's shed. I'll vote against this motion because I will not allow my vote to help destroy the livelihoods of many and complicate the lives of others and create issues of animal welfare.
Thank you. Is there any other councillor that wishes to speak? Is there any other councillor that wishes to speak? Please be quiet. Councillor Taylor, would you wish to speak?
Thank you, Mayor Arnott. It grieves and saddens me immensely to see the South Western Victorian Livestock Exchange let run down by previous councils to the situation it is in today. My heart makes me lean toward investing, keeping the sale yards going, but my business ethics tell me it is not a financial viable investment to continue for the ratepayers of Warrnambool to keep the South Western Victorian Livestock Exchange going. And I'm well aware of any profit the sale yards made were not reinvested over many years. Mortlake Livestock Exchange should have never been built in 2017. This was a result of continued ignorance and apathy by previous Warrnambool councils and associates over the past 15 years. Warrnambool South Western Victorian Livestock Exchange cannot operate indefinitely, and during this period, previous councils were offered twice to relocate and build new, modern and up-to-date facilities. The first time at Cudgee and the second time at Karamat Road towards the airport. But they reneged to relocate both times. If they had have relocated at either of these sites, Mortlake would have never have happened. South Western Victorian Livestock Exchange sales have been in decline for a number of years, and through the buyer walkway collapsing 12 months ago, we are all here tonight. The only improvement to the yards over recent years was the roof in the southwest corner over the dirt yards. At its peak, South Western Victorian Livestock Exchange had a throughput of over 100,000 head of cattle 15 years ago, and this number has dramatically reduced, now to the vicinity of 6,000 cattle. Work safety issues with the new capital works of around $5 million and ongoing maintenance capital expenditure in excess of $4 million in the next 8 years makes the Warrnambool sale yards extremely vulnerable and susceptible to continue. South Western Victorian Livestock Exchange must rely on a significant boost in sales for the capital works to be commercially viable. Unless this significant increase in sales, which amounts to almost double the current throughput, the average operating loss over the next 20-year period would be around $1.182 million. These projected losses over the next 20 years through the debt repayment, interest and ongoing risks with WorkSafe issues could see this debt soar out to $12 million around 2042. South Western Victorian Livestock Exchange is not a commercial business anymore, and you would have to increase the throughput to over 276,000 cattle to have a fully commercial business. It was decided to build a network of new sale yards today along the eastern coast of Australia. The number of sale yards would be greatly reduced. And on top of this, online auctions, including Auctions Plus and direct selling to the abattoirs, has brought about a major decline. I am fully aware that the South West Victorian Livestock Exchange contribute tens of millions of dollars to the Warrnambool economy, but I believe the loss of business revenue to Warrnambool will not be as excessive as has been made out to be, and I'm sure Warrnambool will remain the major economic hub of the southwestern Victoria for many years to come. Whilst the closure of South Western Victorian Livestock Exchange will have an impact on Warrnambool, there will also be significant benefits to the City of Warrnambool in terms of enabling alternative uses for the site, reduction of council debt, and investment in opportunities that will return great community benefits. The overriding factor of this whole situation is that Mortlake is only 50 kilometres away, which should have never have happened. Had the sale yards been relocated many years ago.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Cush, would you like to speak?
Yes, please. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mine is an appeal, rather a discussion, because it is obvious that the future of Warrnambool sale yard is in jeopardy. Madam Mayor, we are talking here about the closure of the sale yard, and we didn't ask ourselves of what brought the Warrnambool sale yard to this point of closure, and why we didn't have other options apart from closing down the sale yard? How can we base our decisions on data hanging in the air? Have the authors of this data ever consulted with the sale yard agents or with the businesses in Warrnambool? Madam Mayor, Warrnambool is our constituency, not Moorlake, not other town. We are Warrnambool, and we were elected to protect the interests of this community. We cannot destroy our own house and think of our children will go and live in the house of next door neighbor. Maintain your house. Keep your children from roaming around. Keep the farmers coming. It is their place, and place matters in the social setting. Madam Mayor, my vote to close down the Warrnambool sale yard will hurt my dear friend, Uncle Frank Roney, in his grave. Frank Roney spent his life at the Warrnambool sale yard, and whoever never stopped talking proudly about Warrnambool sale yard whenever I visited him. My vote to close down the Warrnambool sale yard will deny young Chad, a 14 years old, who may be sitting here, seeing his future is gone. My vote to close down the Warrnambool sale yard will hurt our businesses. Madam Mayor, there are things money cannot buy, yet people seem to forget the social aspect and impact when it comes to the financial side of the thing. We all know, Madam Mayor, that the Warrnambool sale yard was run down and intentionally neglected by the council for many years. In my humble opinion, council has moral responsibility to maintain it, upgrade it, keep it open for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Paspaliaris.
Thank you,
Thank
Mayor.
you.
I have absolutely struggled with this issue. In all of my deliberation and consideration, I have felt conflicted with the financial scenarios put to us from consultants' reports, whilst considering the civic responsibility I have to represent the community's view. The sale yards issue for me is one that causes an array of financial and community themes to strongly intersect. It is incredibly tough. The dire picture that financial modelling portrays if millions of dollars of council funds were invested into the sale yards is concerning for the organisation. But then my interpretation through the community consultation is that the community's majority response is a desire to keep the facility. I've been grappling with the idea that the yards will ultimately need a large capital investment after years of neglect from previous councils, but from the raw data survey results, my simple assessment was that a majority of the 775 online respondents wanted to keep the sale yards open, whilst 148 of those 775 wanted them closed for a variety of valid reasons. In addition to this, an overwhelming majority of focus group attendees that I observed also wanted the sale yards to remain open. There is an argument to suggest those most passionate make the most noise, but I can only assume those who have not engaged with the consultation process are not aware, do not care, or are indifferent to the issue. How do I choose the most appropriate outcome when trying to make a decision on the best interests of the community when it appears the community is telling me one thing and financial modelling is telling me another? In my view, it is disappointing that council has not actively worked through to try and forward plan for the sale yards from the last time it came to a head 10 or so years ago. I wonder where the proactivity from council has been to invite collaboration, strategy, and most importantly, planning from and with stakeholders on what a long-term future may or may not have looked like from that point on many years ago. Working together could have also initiated more awareness, adaptability, and understanding from stakeholders on where things may have ended up one way or the other. I have weighed up the social and economic factors countless times. Ultimately, in my mind, Warrnambool is a regional town within a large farming primary production district. Does closure of the sale yards signal that Warrnambool is turning its back on the large agricultural industry in the region that has so strongly supported the town? It might. Many business owners have approached me with strong concerns about spending habits and attitudes changing to other major centres and what that might mean for them. This concerns me. The economic impact assessment piece indicates that if the Warrnambool sale yards were not operational, the indicative total loss in output to the Warrnambool regional economy is estimated to be $10.4 million. Some may suggest that the impact of this amount does not mean much in a $4 billion local economy, but I think that sum of money means a lot to a lot of people and small business out there. I have considered the potential financial implications. If the maintenance and reinvestment back into this asset was completed over the last 10 to 15 years, I don't believe we would have this predicament. Now council is needing to tip in a large sum, and from all reports, it does not appear viable, if it's council's own money. Neil Castles in his report states, in recent years, council-owned sale yards have invested heavily in upgrading facilities to improve welfare and amenity. A significant component of this funding has come from the Commonwealth. Has council aggressively and exhaustively explored this option? I'm not sure it has. Could we improve the sale yards with Commonwealth funds rather than our own in order to ease the long-term financial burden predicted? This is possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Paspaliaris. This is an unenviable position that we now find ourselves in, and we are now faced with many issues concerning the future viability of the sale yards. This issue was first raised in 2008 and has been investigated by successive councils since. There is no doubt there has been a significant lack of investment on maintenance and upkeep of the yards over many years. Previous councils have failed to address this issue. They have been unable to make a decision and therefore have kicked it down the road. And so now we find ourselves in a position where there is significant investment required for the sale yards to continue operating. Council have been asked to consider investing approximately $5 million to roof the sale yards. This is not the only investment these yards would require to bring it to best practice and become a modern, high-performing facility. There would also need to be soft flooring considered, better yards, loading ramp, etc. As well, there needs to be continual maintenance. We also have to acknowledge that there is now significant competition in this field. There is competition with selling systems like direct selling from farmers to processors, feedlot selling and independent buyers. As well, there is a state-of-the-art selling facility only 50 kilometres from Warrnambool. Some of the challenges facing sale yards are animal welfare compliance, environmental sustainability issues, provision of animal shade and shelter, increasing OH&S compliance and risk management issues, and the high cost of compliancy with industry standards. Sale yards are a business based on throughput numbers. Throughput numbers at the Warrnambool sale yards have steadily declined since 2013, from a once-off high of 104,000 head to a low of 61,580 head for the 2022 financial year. Based on the numbers to 30th September this year, this will equate to an annual throughput number of between 40 and 50,000 head, a decline of approximately 20%. If council were to invest $5.5 million in new capital expenditure, that is only for the roof, and maintenance capital expenditure of $4 million over 20 years, for council to reach a break-even point, the throughput has to double. Somehow there has to be another 50,000 head of cattle found each year. It has to be in the vicinity of 115,000 throughput, and that is only for a break-even, that is for no money. And it has to perform at that level consistently, year after year, something it has never done. And I reiterate, this is only for a break-even point and not including a full update to the facility. So no soft flooring, better yards and loading ramps, no update to the office and kiosk space. It has been said to us at consultation level that build the roof and the cattle will come. When asked how and where the cattle would be procured from, we were not given a satisfactory answer. It has also been suggested to us that soft flooring can go directly over concrete. This is not correct. It has been said we are spending a lot of money on an art gallery. The only money spent is on a feasibility study, approximately 110,000, of which 100,000 was from a grant from state government. We have had the sale yards compared to the cost of operating Flagstaff Hill. An entirely different landscape, but be assured, as we speak, there is work happening about that very issue. It has been stated that the yards made a profit of $1 million for the financial year 2012-13. This is incorrect. For that financial year, the sales had a turnover of $1.16 million. After expenses and depreciation, the net profit was $156,000. Cattle throughput that year, however, was 88,829 head, 27,000 more head than what the yards are achieving now, an increase of 30% on today's figures. Our responsibility is to the ratepayers of Warrnambool. We need to ensure that we make sound financial decisions based on data and not emotion. It is our duty to ensure that our city remains viable and sustainable. We cannot place a financial burden on the ratepayers for the next 20 years. My fear is that if we invest significantly in the sale yards, it will end up costing ratepayers so much that at the end of the 20-year term, the debt will be greater than the value of the land. So therefore, we have squandered away a valuable asset. An asset, depending on the land use, the value of which range from $13.4 million to $25 million. We also need to question the current location of the yards. Will this be a viable site in 20 years? The amount of growth in that corridor is significant. There are only 4 agents operating out of the facility. One agent is responsible for 75% of the throughput. That does create significant risk to council. Economic loss of $10 million is 0.2% of our $4.8 billion economy. I do acknowledge the social benefit of the yards. It is a meeting place on a regular basis for many farmers, and as such does contribute to better mental health and well-being, as there will be people and business affected by a closure of the yards. Thank you. Please be quiet. Please be quiet and allow council to proceed. There being no further speakers, Councillor Blaine, do you wish to speak before closing the debate?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Arnott.
Please be quiet. Councillor Blaine.
I do agree, the yards are seen as gathering places, but I don't think where they are actually is the key. The key is the yards. I suggest from the social value of the sale yards, as yards become more centralised, more producers will gather, giving more opportunities to mix, mingle and connect with a larger group of producers. The thing with the yards, though, in closing, is I believe this is a legacy left by previous councils, and now is our time to address this issue. We're in a period of hyperinflation. Everything's going up in cost. And you're right, we have a new library that's an extra cost. We've got an ageing aquatic facility that costs, and we've got Flagstaff Hill that costs. Do we want to add the sale yards to the list? Please understand, we can't address these issues overnight, but right now, we're looking at the yards. And if we add this to the list, there very well could be a discussion around the corner about cutting services to the community or possibly breaking the rate cap. Do Warrnambool residents need to be disadvantaged with services or paying more to cover this facility? There are other facilities that service our region. Our housing needs are growing around the current site, and we need more housing and we need more land. There's the opportunity to free up housing land, invest in services, infrastructure for the region without disadvantaging producers in the region. We need to be leading as a city because this opportunity needs to be capitalised on. Otherwise, not only will Warrnambool fall behind, but so will the region in what we can offer. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? Those in favour, Councillor Blaine, Councillor Taylor, Councillor Arnott and Councillor Jelly. The motion is carried. Thank you. We will now move on to item 8.2.
Mayor Arnott. Do you want to adjourn for 5?
You will please be quiet or leave. Thank you. We will now move on to item 8.2, the scheduled council meeting dates 2023, agenda page number 15, Directorate Executive Services. The purpose of this report is for Council's consideration and adoption of the scheduled meeting dates for 2023. Councillors, are there any questions on this item before I seek a motion? Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Ziegler, what is your motion?
Mayor Arnott,
Just a minute, please, Councillor Ziegler. Can I have some quiet in the gallery, please? Thank you. Councillor Ziegler, would you like to continue?
I'll move that the officer's recommendation for the scheduled council meeting dates be as read.
Thank you, Councillor Ziegler. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Blaine, thank you. Councillor Ziegler, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, Mayor.
Councillor Blaine, no. Are there any councillors who wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor Arnott. I'd just like to thank Leon Fitzgerald for his time spent
No.
on the...
Point of order. No. We're on to item 8.2.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Oh, I don't have any comment.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Being no further speakers, I will now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Motion is carried unanimously. Item 8.3, the appointment of Independent Audit and Risk Committee member and chairperson, agenda page number 16, Directorate Corporate Strategies. The purpose of this report is to recommend the appointment of a new independent member to Council's Audit and Risk Committee to fill an existing vacancy and to appoint a new committee chairman. Councillors, are there any questions on this item before I seek a motion? Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Paspaliaris, what is your motion?
I move that Richard Ainio be appointed as an independent member of Council's Audit and Risk Committee for a 4-year term starting November 2022 with full voting rights for the upcoming committee meeting on 15th November 2022, and that Donna Porritt be appointed as the chairperson of the Audit and Risk Committee.
Thank you, Councillor Paspaliaris. You need to be quiet, please. Do I have a seconder for the motion, please? Councillor Taylor, thank you. Are there any councillors who wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Paspaliaris, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Just to say that out of the 3 candidates listed, that Richard appears to be the best qualified for the role. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Arnott. Yes, I'd just like to thank Leon Fitzgerald for his time spent on the Audit and Risk Committee, and I'm sure Richard, with his vast financial background, will be a worthy member of the committee. Thank you, Mayor Arnott.
Is there anyone else that wishes to speak to the motion? Sorry, Councillor Blaine.
Thank you, Mayor Arnott. I look forward to working with Richard in the Audit and Risk. I thank Leon for his time there, and Richard, being an ex-auditor, is very experienced and be a valuable asset. I'd also like to say thank you to all the applicants who actually put in for the position, and also thank you to Donna for stepping up to be the chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Blaine. Councillor Paspaliaris, do you wish to close? I will now put the motion to vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 8.4, Activities and Initiatives 2022-2023, July to September, Quarter 1, Agenda page number 18, Directorate Corporate Strategies. This report provides information on the progress in achieving the activities and initiatives, ANIs, set down for the 2022-2023 as part of the Council plan and budget process. This report provides Council and the community with an update in the progress of actions across Council's functional areas. Councillors, are there any questions on this item before I seek a motion? Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Taylor, what is your motion?
Thank you, Mayor Arnott. I'd like to move the motion that the Activities and Initiatives 2022-2023 July to September quarter, as per the officer's recommendation, be accepted.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for this motion? Councillor Ziegler, thank you. Councillor Taylor, do you wish to speak to this motion?
Thank you, Mayor Arnott. I'd like to refer to item 1.311 to provide a broad range of programs for our older community members, and I feel our choice of the Archie Graham site in Tolmer Street is much underutilised. It has many activities available for the elderly which would be promoted far better than it is at the moment, and to continually market the venue in the Promenade magazine would be very advantageous to the community site. And I would like to congratulate the council staff and on the opening of the new library, and commend the building and of the 2 lifts in the new library which assist people with disability moving around the library facilities. Thank you, Mayor Arnott.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Ziegler, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thanks, Mayor Arnott. I'll endorse the words of my fellow councillor with the rider that the elements of the Archie Graham Centre must recognise the contribution and continued involvement of the senior citizens, recognise the importance of that. I'd also like to commend the staff of the library, as mentioned by Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Councillor Ziegler. Is there anyone else who would wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Jelly.
Thank you, Mayor Arnott. Yes, look, there's some great things going on in that July to September. A lot of ongoing things that allow our community to access inclusive services and cultural opportunities, which is fabulous. We've got the Archie Graham, we've got the West Warrnambool Neighbourhood House, who again are very supportive in various areas of the community. The Volunteer Connect program, we had a Take a Step Forward LGBTIQA plus inclusion and diversity conference, which was held in this room a month or so ago, and ongoing participation with Wata, with Nanda and Eastern Mar Aboriginal Corporation, which increases community awareness and promotes Aboriginal heritage, culture and sites of significance. So there's a lot going on and a lot planned for ahead, so it's great.
Thank you, Councillor Jelly. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak? Councillor Paspaliaris.
For me, it was pleasing to see that a lot of the activities and initiatives were really on track in terms of, you know, a quarter or even more through. One that stood out to me was 5.7.2. Just, you know, it's excellent to see that the big build is continuing, and there's 9 homes completed and a further 88 homes underway, which I think is really good. I also think 5.8.2, so pursuing funding for the animal shelter redevelopment is just something to really sort of keep chipping away at. It's going to be a really important future project. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak to the motion? Thank you. I will now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 8.5, the Quarterly Financial Report, July to September 2022, agenda page number 20, Directorate Corporate Strategies. The purpose of this report is to present to Council the financial performance for the 3 months ended 30th of September 2022. Councillors, are there any questions on this item before I seek a motion? Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Blaine, what is your motion?
I move that the quarterly financial report for the period July to September 2022 be received.
Is there a seconder for this report? Councillor Paspaliaris. Councillor Blaine, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you. The 3 months' actual results actually indicate a favourable financial position of 858,000 compared to the budget. Partly this is a loan timing thing with some of the major projects that we've got going on. Additional user fee income of 159,000 across the service areas, including the Lighthouse Theatre, our holiday parks and Aquazone, is actually really exciting, and one of the top unfavourables was the drop in income from the sale yards. Employee benefits were lower than anticipated due to how many vacancies we've got, which this is concerning when we're trying to offer services. So that's a total of 986,000. Materials and services are higher than budgeted, with the number of timing variations across the organisation for trainees and things being about 650,000. So, and Lighthouse Theatre commercial hires 80,000 by the that's been offset by the increased fee income. So that's been really exciting as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Blaine. Councillor Paspaliaris, do you wish to speak?
Thank you. Only to reiterate the vacant positions totalling 990,000. That's a lot, I thought. So not great on one hand, but a saving if you look at it that way on another. Thanks.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak to the motion? No. Therefore, I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried unanimously. Item 8.6, the Warrnambool Residential Land Supply and Demand Assessment 2022, agenda page number 21, Directorate City Growth. This report provides information on the Warrnambool Residential Land Supply and Demand Assessment, October 2022, and recommends that the report be endorsed. Councillors, are there any questions on this item before I seek a motion? Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Blaine, what is your motion?
That council endorse the Warrnambool Residential Supply and Demand Assessment, October 2022.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for this motion? Councillor Jelly? Thank you. Councillor Blaine, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Historic population growth has increased on an average basis of about 0.7% or 235 people per annum between 2016 and 2021, as shown by the new census. And look, it's estimated the population in Warrnambool in 2021 was 35,419. Residential development activity building approvals measured over the 2 financial years has significantly increased by about 51 across Victoria, increasing by about 51%, as we've seen that big move from COVID to the regions. Melbourne, over the same time, has their building approvals over the same time increased by 3%. Warrnambool over the period illustrated significant growth in the in building approval activity, and it was still a credit when we got to when we increased our activity from 96% from 204 approvals in 2019-20 to 2020-21, doing 399. Housing demand have presented 3 scenarios in the report. It's actually really interesting. The government's population figures being right, so we'll grow at about 0.9% per annum, or we'll continue to see the growth from COVID at 1.2% per annum, or we'll see housing growth still trend at 1.4% per annum. But the one thing that the land supply report does really show is that there is land available, there is intent there to continue building in order to be able to house our population. So I'm happy to support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Blaine. Councillor Jelly, do you wish to speak?
Look, really just to say that we have to monitor the residential land supply across the city on an annual basis, and to ensure that there is adequate provision of zone residential land to meet the projected demand, which in the last year or so has changed a lot. So it's a very important thing to have to do. So yeah, that's about it.
Thank you. Do any councillors wish to speak to the motion? No, thank you. Being no further speakers, I'll put the Councillor Blaine, sorry, do you wish to close?
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 8.7, the Great Ocean Road Regional Tourism Proprietary Limited Funding Agreement Renewal, agenda page number 26, Directorate City Growth. This report recommends Warrnambool City Council enter into a Memorandum of Understanding with Great Ocean Road Regional Tourism Limited to renew its financial membership over the 3-year period ending 30th of June 2025. Councillors, are there any questions on this item before I seek a motion? Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Taylor, what is your motion?
Thank you, Mayor Arnott. I'd like to move the council enter a Memorandum of Understanding with the Great Ocean Road Regional Tourism to renew its financial membership over the 3-year period ending the 30th of June 2025, as per the council officer's recommendation. Thank you, Mayor Arnott.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Jelly. Thank you. Councillor Taylor, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Arnott. As Warrnambool does very little to promote and market itself through no Chamber of Commerce or Tourism Association group, it is essential and vital to Warrnambool's economy relationship to be kept in good faith and loyalty with the Great Ocean Road Regional Tourism. It is good to see that GORT have indicated they will review the funding methodology to be undertaken in July 24, 1 year in advance of completion of this funding cycle, which hopefully will erase the false and inaccurate current funding whereby Warrnambool pays the largest sum of $152,000 and the Surf Coast Shire pays only $140,000 to Gort. One item to keep in mind to notify Gort as soon as possible is that Warrnambool will have one of the best children's adventure playgrounds in Australia at no charge to the users at Lake Batobe to open shortly. Promoted properly, this playground could well be a major tourism attraction for families to use for many years to come. Thank you, Mayor Anna.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Jelly, do you wish to speak?
Yes, just to reiterate what Councillor Taylor has said about this 3-year term membership with Gort, something we all agreed to do, but to be reviewed, as you've indicated. We do require them to be involved in quite a few things that we're looking at going forward. So, and we must be involved in regional tourism in some way. So I concur with Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Councillor Jelly. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Councillor Ziegler?
I think it's important in this agreement, the 3-year agreement, that it's acknowledged that our council has an extensive work program that will require Gort leadership, advocacy and partnership over coming years, including involvement in the development of Flagstaff Hill, the Warrnambool Art Gallery and new destination action plan for Warrnambool, keeping in mind that the Great Ocean Road actually doesn't have an awful lot to do with Warrnambool in practice. But it is a very powerful political lobby, and we need to take total advantage of it and position ourselves so that the advantage we take is that it supports us with those big projects.
Thank you. Are there any further councillors that wish to speak? Thank you. Being no further speakers, Councillor Taylor, do you wish to speak before closing the debate?
No, thank you, Mayor Anna.
I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 8.8, Small Infrastructure Fund, the Basketball Court, agenda page number 28, Directorate Infrastructure Services. The purpose of this report is to consider proposed locations for a new outdoor basketball court. Councillors, are there any questions on this item before I seek a motion? Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Taylor, what is your motion?
Thank you, Mayor Arnott. I'd like to move that the council support the progression for the proposed multi-purpose court project identified near the Lawn Tennis Club and the Mini Golf Club as per the officer's recommendation be accepted. Thank you, Mayor Anna.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Paspaliaris, thank you. Councillor Taylor, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Arnott. The inclusion of the multi-use basketball court in the Lake Batobe precinct will greatly enhance this area as a major tourist attraction, especially inasmuch for the tourists camping at Surfside 2. Caravan Park just over the road. The option for diversifying the court so that it can also be used for pickleball, half-court basketball, netball, foursquare, ladder runs and hopscotch will also provide enormous usage of the court. Thank you, Mayor Anna.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Paspaliaris, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I think that it's a good thing that there is likely to be an option provided for older children, let's say, for the area, because sometimes that is missing in that precinct. I think I am a little bit concerned with the fresh markets that are held to the south of the proposed location. It does suggest that that this activity shouldn't significantly impact on the use of the court. I would be further reassured in the sense that there's a process of stakeholder engagement with surrounding businesses, clubs, fresh markets operators that will be undertaken as the project progresses. So some initial concerns, but I feel that may be ironed out or further explored with some more consultation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Paspaliaris. Is there any councillors wishing to speak to the motion? Councillor Ziegler.
Thanks, Mayor Arnott. Initially, I was disappointed that the area next to the kiosk and to the west of the proposed surf club site wasn't going to be the site for the basketball court. Having said that, I think that the fact that it's going to be placed where is suggested here is suitable and adequate. I think that it's going to be used quite well, and it's going to be another one of those brilliant assets to a particularly special area of the town.
Thank you, Councillor Ziegler. There being no further speakers, Councillor Taylor, do you wish to...
Sorry, point of order.
Oh, sorry, Ben. Councillor Blaine, sorry.
Sorry, yeah, sorry, I'm coming back. This isn't the first time the basketball court has been raised in council. It was actually first raised back on the 7th of September 2020 with the previous council. The motion moved at the time is quite clear. It states that council include the proposed basketball court in the Foreshore Precinct Plan and continue discussions with DELP around the planning permissions. The reason for this was to ensure that the basketball court wasn't actually going to hinder any any future progress down in that area of our beautiful city. So it seems this is a little bit ad hoc. Where is the precinct plan? We haven't done it yet, so we haven't planned for what's going to be there in the next 20 to 30 years. How can we know that where the basketball court is going is not going to hinder any future development? The next question I've got, where is the consultation with the community? They've looked at 5 different sites on here, and we've decided this is the best one that's going to have the least amount of impact, with no consultation. With DELP, where's the body of work on where we can actually put it? It hasn't been done. It's very clear what needed to be done in order for this project to progress. It needs community support, and it needs a structure plan in order to support the location for the future growth. It feels like it's ad hoc at this point in time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Blaine. Councillor Akush, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to compliment and acknowledge the work of the staff and officers at the City Council for spending time finding a suitable place to put the basketball court. To me, it's a suitable place, location, and I think if any consultation is some of our colleagues suggesting, I don't know what time it will take and how we are in a decision, so I'm not quite sure about these implications.
Thank you, Councillor Akush. There being no further speakers, Councillor Taylor, do you wish to speak before closing the debate?
No, thank you, Mayor Arnott.
Thank you. I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? Motion is carried 5-2. Thank you. Item 8.9, the Advisory Committee reports, agenda page number 35, Directorate Executive Services. This report contains the record of one reference group meeting. Councillors, are there any questions before I seek a motion? Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Paspaliaris, what is your motion?
That the record of the cycling reference group meeting held on 24th August 2022 be received.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Blaine. Thank you. Councillor Paspaliaris, would you like to speak to the motion? Councillor Blaine, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No.
Thank you. Are there any councillors who wish to speak to the motion? There being no further speakers, I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 8.10, informal meetings of councillor reports, agenda page number 36, Directorate Executive Services. The purpose of this report is to provide council with copies of informal meetings of council, previously known as Assembly of Councillor Records, as previously required under Section 80A(2) of the Local Government Act 1989. Councillors, are there any questions on this motion on this item before I seek a motion? Thank you. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Blaine, what is your motion?
That the record of informal meetings of council held on the 10th, 17th, 24th and 31st of October 2022 be received.
Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Ziegler. Thank you. Councillor Blaine, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you.
Councillor Ziegler, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you.
Are there any councillors who wish to speak to the motion? Being no further speakers, I will now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried unanimously. Item 8.11, the Mayoral and Chief Executive Officer Council Activities Summary Report, agenda page number 13, Directorate Executive Services. This report summarises Mayoral and Chief Executive Officer Council activities since the last ordinary meeting, which particularly relate to key social, economic and environmental issues of direct relevance to the Warrnambool community. Councillors, are there any questions on this item before I seek a motion? Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Taylor, what is your motion?
Thank you, Mayor Arnott. I'd like to move that the Mayoral and Chief Executive Officer Council Activity Summary Report be received as per the officer's recommendation. Thank you, Mayor Arnott.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Jelly, thank you. Councillor Taylor, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Well, thank you, Mayor Arnott. Yes, there was one item left out on the recommendation where the Deputy Mayor did attend one function during the month.
Thank you. We'll make sure that's rectified. Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Jelly, do you wish to speak to the motion? No. Thank you. Are there any councillors who wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Taylor, do you wish to speak before closing the debate?
No, thank you, Mayor Arnott.
Thank you. I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item number 9, there's no notice of motions. Thank you. We'll go to item 10, general business. General business is for items that are of a minor or routine nature, and I retain the right to reject items in accordance with clauses 29(2) of the governance rules. I remind councillors that you will have a maximum of 2 minutes to speak, and officers will be provided with an opportunity to respond or address any issues raised. Mayor, councillors, are there any items of general business? No, thank you. We move to item 11, urgent business. Chief Executive Officer, have you received any notice of items of urgent business?
None received, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Item 12, we will close the meeting. There being no further items of business, I declare the meeting closed at 7:24 p.m.